It's coming out with the tarp. That one's rolling. Hey guys, how's it going? Hey, we're going to continue on this 1971 VW convertible Beetle that I dragged out of a garage that had been sitting since 1995. Ran when parked. And so we did a video of rescuing it, getting it out of there, and then starting doing assessment on it. We put it on the lift, looked underneath of it. Looks pretty good, has some patch panels put on it. Pulled the plugs, did a compression test, it was low. Shot some oil in the cylinder, spun it around a little bit, put the plugs back in it, put a set of points in it, dumped some fuel in it, and fired it up, kind of like running it off a squirt bottle, and it would not run off the carburetor. That's kind of where we left off. It seemed like we have a decent engine, didn't shift any gears or anything like that, so we don't know what else we got, but that is where we come into today to start continuing on, carrying the torch and trying to bring it back to life. So let's get into the fuel system and get that carb off of there. I'm sure it's all kind of gummed up. We can get that torn down, get it soaking in the ultrasonic cleaner, and we'll jump on some other stuff. So without further ado, let's get some wrenching done. And if you own an air-cooled Volkswagen, that wrench is your friend. Yes, it is. Yeah, Volkswagen, a couple of the bolts can be a little hard to get to and disconnecting power. That's an electric choke, and that's an electric shut-off. Solenoid for when you turn the key off. It doesn't stay running afterwards. I'm gonna get the cap out of my way. That can get out of the way. This is a vacuum for the distributor, vacuum advance. We got a fuel line which is petrified. We're probably just gonna end up cutting that right off. And that fuel smells putrid. Yeah, this line is pretty. All that's gonna get replaced. So let's go see if any gas comes out of it. Bit up front, you can smell by the tank, it is putrid. So there is a throttle cable right here. It's a kind of a little barrel. It's 8mm. You want to support it when you're doing it. We grab a pair of pliers. Yeah, sometimes they crack easy, sometimes not so much. There we go. The barrel right out of it so it doesn't fall. It just has two bolts holding it. The front one, easy to get to. The back one, not so much. Let's pull that fuel down out of our way. Dig a little hole. So you can get on it with this. And it allows you to kind of sneak your way in there to unbolt it. And you can kind of spin it with your fingers. So it's that, the heater boxes, the exhaust system, that S wrench works really good for, the fuel pump, the distributor, all for getting the back bolts off. You could do it with a regular wrench, you don't need it. It does definitely help. What's that one? Just use a regular one in the front if you want. And like I said, I think this is probably a different engine for the car because the intake manifold has an intake manifold for an auto shift car. And an auto shift, they call it an automatic stick shift, used a large vacuum port to run it, which is showing up. It's this right here. Let's get the carb out of there. Half the gas gets stuck to the bottom, half is stuck to the top. Yeah. Let's go take that over to the bench. Crack it open. See what the inside looks like. this is what I was talking about. So this tube right here is would feed the vacuum for a large vacuum pump and controller that sits over here to run the clutch part of the auto shift. And a normal intake manifold for a car that came without it would not have this. It's not like this is a universal thing. And it looks like somebody brazed up a cap on the end of it to seal it off. Or they could just change the intake manifold. They have a tendency, they have a preheat. I know what's going on. They have what's called a preheat. In the wintertime, the carb is very far away from where the heads are. So they'll ice up right in here. This whole area will ice up. So what they do is they run exhaust. This right here is a preheat. It runs underneath the intake manifold and causes it to heat up, keep the manifold hot so that it does not do that freezing. They get clogged over time. They'll have a problem with it. So somebody could have also changed the manifold out for that. Who knows? Yeah, I was talking about my last video. I kind of said it wrong. I was talking about like father and son projects, which ones are a good car to do, and Volkswagens are very popular for that reason, just because they're simple. And I meant to say the parts are inexpensive, and I said they're expensive. They're really not. Of all the kind of cars that you need to restore, they're probably one of the cheapest, because Mexico kept it going for a long time. I think 2003, I want to say, was the last year, because they used them for taxis. So there's a big support of parts for, especially like this one, like the older stuff, like the stuff that's from the 60s and up. They are 60s and down. They are a little harder to get the correct stuff for. But the newer stuff, the 70s cars, this is the choke, and it takes when you turn the key on, you're putting power to it, and as it heats up, it slowly turns that coil, and what it does is it slowly opens that butterfly. Get that out of the way. There is a upper and lower body to it. Just has 5 screws. And I dumped fuel in it, so it's going to have fuel in it, not from the tank. Or should I say father-daughter and other? Or should I cover the bases? There we go. We'll pop the top off. I have carb kits upstairs. Most of the time, the only thing you really need will be the accelerator pump. This is the float we're taking out of it right now. And the float's floating. Let's go dump that gas out into something. It is pretty nasty. And that was fresh gas that I put in it. Cooking with Musty One recipes. So the bottom of that, I don't know if it's showing up, it is just mud. It's definitely not going to be sucking any fuel up. The fuel is drawn in through a jet. That is right there. So that's why it wouldn't operate at all on the gas that I put in the float bowl. I definitely need to come apart. And more apart it needs to come. So on the side here's a jet, a shutoff. It's an electric solenoid. It's got a plunger on the end of it. There's the plunger. You put power to it, and it pulls this away, and then while it's running, and then as soon as the power you turn off, it blocks off a passage, doesn't allow fuel to go through. It is going to have an idle speed and an air fuel mix screw, which are these two coming out of it. Yeah, and these are, I was talking about the cars. as far as a restoration product. This is like what you want to look for. You want to look for something that isn't a ton of rust. The mechanical stuff really is, it's fairly cut and dry. If it needs an engine, needs a transmission. If you start getting into a ton of welding and paint work and all, it greatly exceeds the value of the car. Yeah, that's all credited up. And let's get this out of the way because you know I'm going to knock it over and wear it. This smells bad enough as it is. All right, let's go. See, that would have been it right there. So I'll launch the wrench. This is just the access port to that jet that's on the side. So we're going to try sneaking in with a screwdriver. Get that out of it. Yeah, she's got mud in it. So this is where the fuel gets drawn up, and that's plugged solid, so it was never going to run at all. What were we talking about? Restoring cars. And then, but on top of that, it's also what the car is. This is for the accelerator pump. It costs you just as much parts-wise to restore, for the most part, like a 73 Super Beetle, which is the lesser desired car. Let's go say it that way. It's all opinion of what you like, but as far as if you're just doing it for what the value of the car is going to be afterwards, you would want to try to stick with 67 and down. They are the more valuable cars. You can kind of tell by the bumpers. It'll have like what's called the towel bar bumpers on them. Those cars have more of a desire, more of a following. Again, all of them are fun. I would stay away from the fuel injected stuff, which is going to be, I want to say like 76, and all depends on where you're buying them. I think 76 and up had all the fuel injection stuff. A lot of people convert them over, and again, they were trying to pass emissions. Stick with something that has a carburetor on it. All this stuff, like with the dual, the best engines to kind of go with for a driver is going to be like a dual port, like this has in it, early 70s. Doesn't that want to play well? Let's try. But all that goes out the window. Say if you're doing a family, your parents' car that's a Super Beetle from whatever, so be it. It's just I'm just talking about the financial part of it. Now this is your accelerator pump, and when you accelerate and you hit the gas, this little diaphragm is supposed to move. You hit it, it pushes, it squirts fuel up through this little nozzle, because what happens is the car goes lean. If that wasn't there, the gas would go lean for a little bit, and then it would be at its normal mixture. But when it goes lean, it falls on its face. So what they do is they give you a little squirt of gas, and that helps get rid of that. That is totally mudded up. There's a little check ball. There's little check balls inside there that need to be able to move too. But we'll worry about them after it's been taken apart and cleaned, and see if the check balls check. This will go with a screwdriver. Another jet. That's all plugged up. This car needed everything. Get rid of that. It's just a blocked off. This probably had a vacuum retard on it also. Sometimes they get disconnected. Just the base gasket. And this gasket's already shot. It's already ripped and torn. We could soak it, without it. Let's get off what we can, and then the cleaner will take care of the rest of it. We're going to pull that nozzle out. That nozzle for the accelerator pump. We want fluid to get down inside there. Sometimes they can fight you. There it goes. And There's no need to take the linkage and all. You can leave all that together. That does not need to come off there. Just more of that gasket I'm going to go chase up top. So we have a needle and seat. That's going to be a 15 millimeter we're going to need to get off. The cap is already off. We can take, there's another diaphragm up in here. This is for the choke pull off. Also, there's an electric part of it, and then there's a diaphragm arm that also goes to the choke. On the last warm days, you hear a bike screaming. Let's go see if we can get that to pop. A lot of times you can whack it with the side of a screwdriver, but this one seems to be fighting us. Let's go give her a little help. A spring in the diaphragm. Kind of the same idea as the accelerator pump. And there. And it's got a linkage that you have to kind of spin it around. You can get it out of there. This one usually stays pretty good because there's no fuel there. It's all just what the fuel takes care of. All right, I'm going to go get that out, clean up some of this gasketting material, and I'll throw it in the soaker along with a bunch of its parts. Give her. Just giving her. And we'll go do something else. We'll go dig in the mud. Yeah. That used to be fuel. Not anymore. Imagine what the inside of the gas tank looks like. Yeah, we're gonna have to deal with that too. There you go. Better try to get what you can out of it so that the cleaner, you don't contaminate the cleaner. So it's good to try to dig out what you can. Well, considering the garage already smells like rotten fuel, let's continue on with that part of it and let's look into the gas tank. See if, I don't even know if there's anything in it. Let's go find out. So under the front, is the gas tank is under here. Let me get all this junk out of the way, get the boards out, and get a better look at what we're dealing with. Getting there. Get the spare tire out of the way too. A little tidbit. They use the spare tire as the pressure for the windshield washer fluid. So coming off the valve stem, little hose runs up to the bottle. The washers. And you can tell the rim was painted along with the other ones, but this one wasn't exposed. That'd look bad for rust. That's good. If you don't have no air in her, that's okay. Alright. Well, that is what we're going to go deal with. It looks like it has already been leaking and seeping. I see all the fuel down around here, so the tank may have been fairly full and it's leaking at the neck. Hard to tell. I do have a siphoning tool, but I don't know if it's going to make that bend. The other part is possibly we can get the sending unit out of it. I don't know if it's going to clear the air box. The sending unit out of it, we could just put the tool right down inside there and draw all the fuel out. Or we could just shove a hose down in it. Do it. Oh, this is going to smell so good. I don't want to come out. It's got threads on it. There it goes. Shows you how gummed up. Probably like the bottom of that float bowl is going to be the same. Yeah, look at all the crud. It's going to be a nasty one. Try not to clench. Nope, I don't think it's going to make the bend. Just got to work on a hygiene too. So we can blow bubbles in it. Alright, let's go get a can set up, and I am not going to suck on that. That's fighting us a little bit. Let's try a little force feeding So you can pressurize the gas tank and have it come up the tube. Work smarter, not harder. Hopefully it doesn't fall. I'll let that do its. Let that move its goo right along. This definitely does not look like a good vintage of fuel, now does it? It's more of a tar. All right, we're gonna let that go do its thing and see how much we get out of it. I'll probably have to do it twice. I got another jug waiting to go. And jug number 2. I'm sure we're going to get it sucking some air now. That's it. So it's actually the next day, and I had to go leave, so I never turned the heat on the ultrasonic cleaner. Let's see what the fluid just did by itself. Yeah, it's probably been, I don't know, 18 hours or so. It looks decent. Wouldn't say it's a terrible thing. I can go wash it off and we'll see it's clean enough to work with. Again, the stuff's made to work by itself without heating it up. The ultrasonic cleaner just kind of gives it the extra edge, you know. Yeah, doesn't look too bad. Let's go rinse it off. I just rinsed them off of hot water, but it did not get all the mud out of the corners. Yeah, we scraped a bunch of it out. Got a lot of it, but I wouldn't say all of it. I'm not going to touch it anymore. I'm going to let it be. I'm going to go put it back in. I'm going to turn the heat on. It'll probably be a good barometer for, yeah, you can still see some down in there too. A good barometer to see if that helps remove stuff from it with the temperature and the vibration. Back in the pool you go. Yeah, we cooked for, I don't know, 45 minutes. Let's see if that made a better difference. More of a difference. More better. That's warm. Yeah, that's got it now. There we go. Woohoo! 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 Good drive. Meow. Meow. Well, I cleaned up pretty nicely the second time around. I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit and put a bunch of stuff together. We've seen it many times, but I'll bring you back when doing the accelerator pump. The way the accelerator pump works, as I was saying earlier, it draws in fuel. There's a check valve. Below this, there's actually a port down here. Fuel is drawn in through that hole. There's a diaphragm right here that moves. It draws fuel in when you let off the gas, and then when you hit the gas again, it pushes it out this port that also has a check ball. Runs across, runs up. There's a little brass hoop that comes up and squirts raw fuel down into the center of it. And a lot of times that's the problem with Volkswagen carbs, is that diaphragm rots out and fails. I'll leave the top off. We can see the function of it once we get it together, but I'm going to jump ahead, put a bunch of parts on it. I'll bring you right back. We're going to go put the nozzle in. And we want the nozzle to face right against that back lip, as close as we can get to this without hitting it when it squirts. All right, let's go give that a couple and go a little further. I'm going to go to where I hit it and just come back a hair right there. And what that's going to give us is when we floor it, it's going to shoot raw fuel right in there and get rid of the flat spots. Very common that, you know, you get on the gas, a lot of carbureted stuff. You get on the gas and it just falls on its face. Boah! You know, you let off the gas and it gets caught back up again. Well, that's part of the cure for that, because it goes lean real quick when you're doing it for a second. Let's go give her a couple of squirts. And it should shoot right out basically right out the bottom of, like you're milking a cow. I need to take that and twist it a little. It's hitting the plate before. Yeah, trying to do this and keep it in the camera. Somebody bent it the wrong way. It's got to lean more that way, so that when you're hitting the gas, it's clearing that throttle plate. Let's try that again. Okay. That's better. So we are also having another problem, which is a common problem that happens, is where this meets. So you have, there's no fuel on this side, but there's fuel on this side. And this plate warps over time. And I don't know if you can see it, we're running out of fuel. It's leaking right there. So that's no good. I gotta take this plate back off of here again. I'm gonna lay it on a piece of sandpaper on a flat surface and get rid of the curve that's in it and try putting it back together again. So I'm just gonna sand it on a flat surface. You can see right now there's no real like hash marks in anything. It'll light up really quick once I let's go throw a little bit of oil on it's like 400 grit. And we are just gonna go do the polishing kind of thing. Just do it a little bit, it'll just show the edges. You see how the sandpaper's touching the edges, but it's not touching that center right there. It's not touching it there and there. So I'm going to work that so that it's shiny going all the way across, and then we'll get rid of that bow that's in it, and it should seal it up. Plus, you know, again, you know, quality of parts, the thickness of the material on this pump compared to the original one is probably about half the size. I'm just going to show up right now. You know, this is just much thicker than what this is too, so that's not helping things. Just like everything nowadays, it's made out of shit. That's looking pretty good. You can see where it's pretty much flattened it out all the way across. Kind of like when you're doing body work and you hit it with some black spray paint and you sand it down and see where the high and low spots are. There's all the old metal. Alright, I'm going to put her back together. Hopefully the second time around we got it. Alright, let's try it again. Should be squirtable. Squirt's good. And it ain't shooting out of there anymore. Good. See what I mean by milking a cow? Alright, I'm going to go finish buttoning the rest of that up and we'll throw it on the car. So I'll show you one last thing before we put the carb on. Setting up the choke. So it's got an electric choke. And that choke being that plate right there. It closes off air. Enriches it for when it's cold. So this has a coil essentially, and as you turn power on to the ignition, this slowly heats up and the position of it changes. Well, that grabs that little barb right there and lets tension come off of it. So I don't know, it's about 50 degrees in the garage right now. We're gonna dial that in. You can see where it's pulling the choke in. It'll have like a spring loaded to it. I say 50 degrees. I'd probably try it right about there, not quite closed all the way, but giving some. And what you could do, you can mark it. Actually, somebody already put a punch mark on it. A lot of times they do have a mark built into them, but over time that spring changes. And then while you're running it, you know, cold weather, warm weather, you find it's off a little bit. You just loosen up these three screws and you can kind of move this around just a little bit to fine tune it. But we're gonna go start, just so happens, kind of like right where that dot is where it lined it up. Lined it up? All right, we'll go with that. I know. I'll get it on the car. One of the last things I want to add it to is this right here. A lot of people use this for idle speed adjustment. It is not for idle speed. That's down here. This is just for choke. The more choke is on it, it kind of revs the throttle. So if it's super cold, it's up there. It's holding the rev as it warms up. It'll draw down, and then finally it'll go down to nowhere. What the adjustment is on that, I don't even know if the screwdriver is going to fit in there, is you're going to back it off. And you want it just so it doesn't touch that. You kind of run it just maybe even rubbing on it or not touching it at all is where you want to set that. You don't want to run that in and try using it for an idle speed. It'll be screwed up. You won't be on the idle circuit of the carburetor, and it'll give you a bunch of issues. Yeah, and again, continuing with the quality of the set. Here's the original base gasket, the thickness of it. Here's the one they want you to put on it. So I try to use as many original parts as possible. Even if it's a 50-year-old gasket, I will still use it over some of the new stuff. The only pieces that I really put in the whole kit was the accelerator pump, that, and the needle and seat, which is built into that. Those three pieces and whatever gaskets you need. Everything else, I use all the jets over. I don't use the new ones, the new set screw, the new screws over. I use all the old stuff. I just don't trust that. All right, car's back on. We have fuel going to it. Now we have fuel going to it. Let's raise that up a little. Grab it. She's leaking. She's got a leaker. The hose is the wrong size. Put a tie wrap around it. I thought that was going to be able to do it. I don't think so. Got to come up with something better for that. Hold on. Let's call it damp. Now this is 12 volts. We need that going to the coil. We can pick up off of here. They're all tied together. This will give us spark. And let's give her a crank, see what we get. I think our starter is definitely our next issue. We still got power. One step forward, 3 back. Well, that starter's been in trouble for us the whole time since we got it. So let's get the ass end of the car up off the ground. We'll get that tire off. It's easier access to kind of go through this wheel well. Ooh, they painted everything at the same time, lug nuts and all. Yeah, let's look at the paint job too. You can kind of tell that this was like a Earl Shives in a car, $39.95. But this, I think he bought it in '85. So, what was it, a 14-year-old car at that time? And the value of the car was $1,000 maybe, if that. All right, now we can get access into that starter a little bit better. Yeah, there's a, this is the heat going up the engine bay to the passenger compartment from the engine bay. Now I'm gonna work on getting that tube out of the way. Got the gutter crimped on there pretty good. Of course, none of the heater boxes are hooked up, none of the levers are. Probably doesn't help that the wire fell off the starter that we were cranking it with too. Let me go throw that back on, see if it does crank. Well, we got to get in here anyway, got to get to this brake, and that starter needs some love. We go throw that wire back on, see if it continues to crank for us. Yeah, the wire's back on there, but still not going. As we were. Get that starter up. Back here's our starter. Now we can get to the bolts. So the big heavy lead is already off to the batteries. A little 13mm nut on the back of it. It's got 2 bolts holding the starter on though. And one of them is the engine bolt, which is that one right there. It's 17mm on the outside. That's the upper engine bolt, but it also goes right through the starter. And you get that from reaching back there to get it off. And then the only other one is on the starter. Simple, it's the lower one, but you want to get that one out of there first. That's the pain in the ass one, especially if it's been there for a long time. Well, the hardware definitely put up a little bit of a fight. The upper bolt, of course, being bound up, and you gotta play a bunch of games to get it. But we got it. Long bolt, about 6 inches long, that is locked in place by the starter. You don't put a wrench on the other side, you just got like a key to it. But you unbolt it halfway, especially if the threads are crappy. That guy right there pops out, and then the whole thing starts spinning because the threads are cruddy. So you gotta unloosen the bottom of the starter, let the starter pull away so it latches itself. Let's go over to the bench, take a quick look at that. We also have there's a bushing in the center of that starter. Getting ahead of myself there. So here's the starter out. Here's that long bolt that is in there. And it's kind of captured right there. It's like an indent on the starter that keeps that from spinning. Well, of course, you're backing the nut off the other end. This bolt now decides to do that. And you're doing this nonsense. So you loosen up the other one, and the starter kind of hangs down a little bit. again, puts tension on it, and then you're able to get it the rest of the way off. You definitely want to make sure that you clean that on a wire wheel afterwards, so that it's not that. So you can just kind of crack it loose and spin it off with your hand. All right, so this starter may or may not be any good. If you notice, you see how much play is in that? There is no support on this end of the starter. And if you take a brand new starter and try hooking power to it and it's out of the car, without supporting this, it will not spin. So let's take a quick look up inside the car and see what that bushing looks like. See if it's egged out or not. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no real good way to get you up inside here to kind of go see. Oh, like a Chevy, yeah. Up like that. There's gonna be a bushing. I can't see anything what you're looking at. But anyway, there should be a bushing right in the center there. And sometimes that gets worn out and gets oval, and then the starter does not work. But believe it or not, there is another way around that. You know, sometimes you can get the bushing out while the engine's in. Sometimes you take the engine out, you press it out, you put a new one in. But Volkswagen also made this starter, which was for a fully automatic, I think it was Type 3 fully automatic, which is like the station wagon fastback. And it does not use a nose cone. It is a snubbed end of it. So that turns into that. You can bolt it right in its place. Same setup, but it is self-supporting. Let's go throw some power on that starter, make sure it is good, and we'll get it up in there. The other thing too, it's kind of, you know, the space of it. She's a little bit larger, but it should fit. I've done it before. Let's go find out. Yes, sir. What's up? Volkswagen car show in Connecticut, and they have it's called a swap meet. It's where everybody sells their old junk, and there was a box of these that I grabbed. This is one of them. And we should go hot to there. Now if we jump to that terminal after I put power on it, if we jump to that terminal, it should make that starter spin. Let's see what we get. There it goes. Tad jumpy. Yeah. Good. Sounds okay. Doesn't look that great, but should do the job. Let's go throw that in there and give it a shot, see what happens. Let's see if that fixed our crank issues. Also worried about fuel coming out of that pump. Let's see what we get. There we go. Yeah, we're punching a little bit of fuel out of that. Let's go close that fuel line off, and we'll hook power back up to the coil and give it a shot again. I have the fuel turned off for now, but the float ball should be full. All right, let's go give her some power to the coil side of things. It energizes everything. We need our crank button. We get rid of the choke. Come on. I don't know if it's flooded or it doesn't have enough. Let's go give her a couple of squirts. Turn the gas back on. We'll let it run for a minute. Definitely, the air fuel mix is definitely off, but let's let it do its thing. No smoke. Let it warm up. Then we'll work with the air fuel mix. They got to come way out. That choke will end up heating up and turning off like we talked about. Getting there. One more click on the choke. Yeah, she's got no idle circuit. That sucks. I'm getting no response out of the air fuel mixes on the screws. So unfortunately I got to go back in. I have something that is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. But it doesn't run. That's good. Sounds decent. Our starter works. Oh well, it's what it is, right? And I believe I found it. So I thought I blew through the idle jet. So you got passages from the center to the outer ports. And now it's gone. Maybe it just cleared itself. It was not blowing through, or it just sucked up a piece of crap in between. And that wasn't blowing through. I'm just gonna go take the other ones out real quick and blow them all out again and make sure I don't have anything that is funky while I have it apart. I'm gonna go through everything one more time on the jets and we'll put it back together and try it again. All right, it's back together. Let's go try it again. Give us some power. And a couple of squirts to get us going. An idle circuit now. Probably got a bad plug wire. Sounds like it's arcing out. One cylinder's stumbling a little bit. Yeah, we have so much more of the tune-up to do. This is just a rough in to keep trying to get it running. We'll let it run a minute. It's got old plugs in it. Never changed the condenser. Haven't adjusted the valves yet. I haven't even put a timer light on it. Getting there. The distributor looks like it's off a little bit just by the general direction. It may or may not be. I'm gonna throw a timer light on it real quick, kind of see where we are. Way out. Way off. There's your problem. Close enough for now. That's why it was sputtering so much. Dial that carb in a little bit better now. Sounds pretty good. Still farting around a little bit, but good enough for now. Until the rest of the tune-up is done, I don't want to keep chasing on the car, but we can get rid of that little pinging it's doing. That. I want to chase the rest of the tune-up parts before I still want to screw with it. That might be it. Sorry, right there. If you get cycled a couple times, it'd help us too, you know? Good. Like the brushes are getting to work out. Alright. Kill it. Let's go see what we get on a restart. I need to give it a little bit of throttle. I am happy with that for now. Like I said, these plug wires, plugs, condenser, the rest of the tune up to, you know, the valves adjusting and everything, but seems like it's settling in pretty good. That should have definitely cleaned all the rust off the inside of the combustion chambers anyway. I think I was, I kind of bailed on the fuel tank just because it was so nasty to deal with. I think it was giving me a headache that we need to go back to finishing up the fuel system. So we'll do that tomorrow morning. It's just so nasty. We have another parts car out back too, which is another 71 convertible that is rusted to death. So if this tank is really roached, you know, that's just the gas cap alone. You can imagine what the rest of it's like. Maybe we'll try stealing the tank out of that. And getting a better look, trying to wonder why it smells so much like gas up here and why it's so nasty and why it was pissing down the side of the tank down there like it was. You think this might have something to do with it? Yeah, I want to say that tank is so corroded that it's not worth saving. But like I said, we do have a parts car. I don't know if that is going to be any good or not, but I could tell you this one, the only thing holding it together is the paint. Yeah, I thought the corrosion was going to be pretty bad on that one. That is definitely for sure. And the whole rest of the tank's going to be like that too, because it's got a weird like bulge in the center of it. That's not supposed to be there. This hump that's in it. That was a great idea. That just shot at my face. But yeah, I think the whole tank is just, only thing holding it together is paint. Because that hump is not supposed to be in the center of it like that. Well, alright. So much for that. Well, at some point I was having to go cut that gas line off. And I'm sure it has fluid still in it and it's nasty. But let's go give her, I got a thing underneath it to catch. Nothing. Hope it was the right line. That was a brake line. Yeah, it's starting to goo now. Like tar's coming out of it. None of that. We have to, on a regular Beetle, you're looking at the bottom of the gas tank, but this you have to go through some sheet metal before you hit the top. Let's hope that I have it empty enough where nothing's going to come out, because this is going to break off when we try to extract it through the boot that's in there. I'll show you. Yeah, you can kind of see where the line goes. It goes through a boot, up through sheet metal, then the tank's up above that. But it's got to come out. So let's eradicate the top side of it and get this piece of hazardous waste out of here. Well, everything is unbolted and unclamped. Let's see how it wants to come out of its hole. The gas neck is still kind of got it. It is feeling pretty heavy. I have a feeling there's still got quite a bit, possibly, of fuel in it. Get under there. percolating pry bars. Oh boy. I get the strange feeling that thing still has like 3/4 of a tank. Let's see if we can get it out of the bag. Something's working out. I spun that neck too. I think it would have tried to work itself out. Go peek underneath it. See if they can get that line through or not. It's right here. I don't want to cut that in case we need it. I don't want to put heat on it either for obvious reasons. I got to work on that coupler there. I had it spinning and I thought it was going to slide right out of there. Nope. There we go. I'm going to go clip off that fuel line. Did it break? It might have broke. It broke. Alright, don't worry about that anymore. Let's get that thing, that smelly thing out of there. Oh boy, it's heavy. Much heavier than it should be. I think it's a solid block of scuzz. Oh, that was easy. Oh. The smell in the shop right now. Ridiculous. Right, let's go look at the bay. See what we have for any damage. Yeah, you'd be huffing and puffing too. Mouse nest there. No great rot though, everything else looks pretty good. Good. Yeah, it's so gummed up, no fuel came out of it. But, if we look inside it. Yeah. That's some muddy stuff right there. Ooh. That tank has like 10 pounds of weight just in sludge built up on it. Alright, let's get this thing out of the garage. It stinks. Alright, so it just so happens that we have a complete parts car. This one's really rotted out. Same thing, 71 Super Beetle convertible. And I believe it has a gas tank in it. Not sure what condition that one is going to be in. But let's do a little exploratory. Right, we know it rots out in that one corner, right? Let's go see if there's anything automatically happening. Seems it's not gutty like the other one. Alright, let me do my best to extricate this one out of here and we'll bring it in to see what we got. Hopefully there's no gas in this one either. And we need the sending unit. The sending unit's gone in another one too. Alright, I'll bring you back when she's removed. Well, I'd say that one actually rings. I would say we definitely have a better shot at trying to save this one. Plus there was no gas in it, which is nice. All right, go bring it in. Sweet condition that's in. I think we're gonna have to steal the filler neck too. That one seems like it's a much better shape than the one that's in the car. So I would say that this is a factory tank. It still has the factory crimps on all the hoses that were on it, and the other one had hose clamps. And what you can be able to see, but that one looks amazingly clean. Look at the difference, huh? A little bit of crap down inside there. I think I'm gonna go throw it on the tumbler for a little while. We'll cap it off, that little homemade machine that I made. We'll throw some soapy water or something in it, and some hardware, and let her clank around a little bit. Hopefully this lip, yeah, it's got a little bit of a lip. The other part is just getting hardware out. I don't know if I want to try taking the sending unit out of it. I don't know if I want to kill the seal that is here. Undecided. I go cap it off, go strap it to the devil's wheel, and let her do its thing for a little bit. Well, while that's outside doing its thing, let's go in, take care of so there's a main fuel line, metal line that goes from the front of the car to the back of the car, runs through the tunnel. Good chance that may be plugged, so let's do what we need to do to see if that is going to be savable, hopefully. If not, we gotta work our way around that. So we have to get rid of that, right? It's not doing anything. We gotta, where it goes underneath the car, it goes down into the tunnel, a little nub sticking up about this far. Get all the fuel line off of it, front and rear, and see if we could push some fluid through it, and probably like brake clean or carb cleaner. Then we take an air gun after it, see if we get a passage. If not, rotor-rooter. If not, run another line. Yeah, we're underneath the front. Let's get rid of this. Ding! Somebody's talking to me. Grab some wire cutters, see if we could split off the edge of it. We have a last of the year VW swap meet this weekend, so I'm hoping to kind of get an idea what we have so I can go shopping. Wouldn't mind a set of tires and wheels. Well, at least it's gooey, not solid. It's a hair or something sticking out of it. All right, let's go in the back, do the same thing on the back, get that side of it clear, and see if we can shoot some air through it. And of course, it's all right where the jack is, where we have to go up. So I'm gonna throw the tire back on that side, and I'll kick this thing out of the way. Now we're at the back of the car, and that's the axle you're looking at. Let's go get that line off of there. That looks like somebody may have even replaced that. Yeah. It might have been replaced. It looks a little different than normal, but either way, still got a steel line going through it. All right, let's take a piece of fuel line and we'll run it up and we'll run it down here. We'll see if we can kind of hit it with an air gun and see if it'll out the other side. Might as well try to get some carb cleaner in there. I don't know if that's going to be a solid wall right there. Nope. Yeah, as I figured. Get you in the eyeballs, but that's the goo that's going to be in that whole thing, you know, that stuff. All right, back to the air. course I put a rag there. Let's go see if it oozed out some. I think it did. All right, let's go give her a little bit more, and I might put some fluid behind it and see if we can get it to hot tooey out the other end. What's happening? There she goes. Good. We're able to get air out the other end. That's a good sign. Again, I said I filled that up with fluid. I'm gonna get a rag on the floor because she's like bleeding plasma. That stuff's like napalm. Awesome. I'm gonna go rinse that through a bunch and put a bunch more fluid through it, and hopefully we can get her to be nice and clean. Even with that, it's gonna take a while to get all the sludge out of her. See her dripping away down there. Yeah, let's just fill it with some carb clean. We'll let that hopefully try to break up some of that sludge. That's what spits out the other end. There it goes. It's raining out the front. Not in the middle. That's a good sign, I guess, too. All right, we'll let that soak. And I'll come back and I'll hit that every once in a while. And hopefully that'll clear it out. Again, I think when we run gasoline through it, we'll leave the, we'll run it through the fuel pump, and we'll just kind of run it into a container for a little bit with fresh fuel until it clears itself out. Ooh, she's that sudsy. Got excited. So I put all the hoses and stuff back on it to plug it and filled it to the very top with hot water. It's right at the edge right now. And it looks pretty good. I don't see any leaks. I do see a little bit around the sending unit, which is the top of the tank. It does look like it's possibly dripping a little from there. Maybe the hot water will help help the gasket come back to life, but that's something we could always change later if it does end up being an issue. Sometimes they leak right through the middle of the sending unit too, just kind of like a rubber boot on the inside of the, actually no, that's not a mechanical one, this one's electrical, so yeah, it's probably just the gasket going around it. So I'm gonna let this sit for about another 5 or 10 minutes. I'll dump it out and I'll try to dry it out the best we can. Much better than the other tank, I'd say. Watch your toes, it's gonna be hot. Check a little bit. Smoke it. Let's suck some air. Pretty clean. That's good. I took a magnet, got the hardware all out of there, and it's looking pretty dry, but I'm going to run a heat gun in there for about another 5 or 10 minutes. That should get rid of any last moisture. Let's give it another rinse. That stuff's been sitting. That should be good for the camera. How's your eyes? Alright, so that's the line coming through the engine bay in the back of the car. So I'm going to blow the same thing. I'm going to blow from the front, back, with some cleaner through it. Hopefully that one pops through. Anything? They're fighting us. Does it still have a snot sticking out of it? No, that's better. Alright, we'll keep working that one like we did the front so we get it to go clear. Well, I'd say that looks pretty good. Even got an echo. Let's get this thing back in the car. And some fuel through it. It's awesome looking. Awesome, I tell you. Oh, we got everything all reconnected, rehooked up. The fuel line that coming out of the fuel pump normally would go to the carb is going into this jar. I want to kind of run it and flush it through a little bit and have it, you know, of course, whatever crap is going to come in. I don't want to push it back into our nice and clean carburetor. All right, fuel is on. Let it gulp for a second. And let's fire it up. And we'll kill it when the glass gets, you know, a little bit full. We'll keep doing that till we get a decent cleanliness, we'll say. Can you see? Just pumping some mud. Give her some choke. All the crap in the fuel pump that we didn't get to clean. Alright, let's go dump that out. Try it again. I'll keep doing that until that's power right there. We'll keep doing that till that gets clear and then we can hook it up and it'll be running off the tank. Round 2. Don't want that going smashing away, you know. How's that? Getting better. Before we blow up, purge it again. I don't know if we call that better, but it seems like when it's perking out of the line, it looks pretty decent. But well, it builds up in a cup, and plus it's getting crud. There's like a bunch of like sandy material coming down. Like that's everything that's going to be in that fuel pump. That's the only thing we didn't get to clean, you know. Being so worried about that tank, coming to clean this one right now. There you go. That might make you feel a little better. And round number 3. I don't know. If anything, I think it's getting worse. Maybe what we'll do, maybe we'll call it right here. We'll let it set overnight. We'll let that fuel, which what is like all those metal lines and everything, all the crud that's on the side of them is now breaking loose from the fuel, working like a solvent. Maybe we do. I'll try it 2 more times. If that doesn't get it, then maybe that's what we'll do. Any better? Yeah. So I think we're on like number 6 or 7. I want to say 7. It's getting there. One more. Yeah, so I think I'm going to let it set overnight and let that stuff work as a solvent. I mean, it's clear, you can actually see the bottom of it, but there's definitely a bunch of dirt that is still getting kicked up. You can see it. And, you know, that's a carb killer right there. Of course, we're going to put a fuel filter in the line, but you know, definitely want to flush it till we get pretty good, like 99%. All right, guys, well, I think we're getting to the point where I was hoping to get further along. It just didn't happen. I kind of ran, you know, if we didn't run into the starter issues, maybe we've, you know, could have got to the point where we freed up the wheels and got the emergency brake to work and freed up the pedals and, you know, flushed the system a little bit more and got to drive it around, just to say that we got to the point of having it yard driving. But we'll get there soon. Again, you know, we got brakes to go through. We had mass cylinders junk, I'm sure. The fuel system looks really good. I don't see any leaks anywhere. The tank is looking decent. I took the neck from the other car, that neck assembly that's up there. I took that whole assembly with its hoses, put it back in here. The one that was in there was just, you know, totally rusted like the tank. I think the tank that was in there was an aftermarket one and it wasn't coated, where this one has like that coating, that grayish coating in there from the factory, which definitely made a difference on it. Where the other one, I think it was just probably just raw steel on the inside, and it just failed big time. So like I said, I'm gonna let it sit overnight and I'll flush it over a couple more times, let that gas kind of soak into those steel lines and in the fuel pump and all, and kind of rinse all that tar that's built up over it for the last 30 years. I'm gonna let it go rinse itself out. But at least we got it to go through and pass through, and you know, we have fuel going from the front of the car, from a tank, back to the engine, and hook a fuel line up, we'd be able to say we could say our fuel system is complete, but it's not. All right, guys, with that, I'm gonna go sign off, and thank y'all for hanging out with me. How do we call it? Resuscitating old stuff that's been sitting for a long time, and doing our best to bring it back to life after 30 years of, I wouldn't call it neglect. Well, it's neglect, it's whatever. All right, guys, with that, I'm gonna sign off. I'll see you on the next one. Till then, later. And a little bonus footage. The next day, let's go give her a little yeehaw and see if it cleared out the fuel, or will clear out the fuel. A little primer start, and we need to get that there. I would expect it to be really dirty and then clear up. Alright guys, it plugged itself up. let's go purge that. Try it one more time. Or 4 or 7. And the dirt that came out of that. Ooh. Well, like, it would work like a solvent, you know, to dissolve all that old tar. Going back to dinosaur blood. All right. I should just get a big tank on that, because I think we got about a gallon and a half that we put in there. I wonder if we just run the tank dry. There we go. Now we're getting it. Finally. I wouldn't think we'd get much dirt out of the inside of that tank. It seemed pretty clean, but you never know. Could be, you know, the tank itself may have a color to it. Now I'm happy with it. I'm going to let that thing sit again. I'm not going to do anything with this for a day or two. I'm going to let it sit again one more time, and hopefully we get some nice clear fuel. Maybe just run the rest of that gallon out of there. Bonus footage over.